Good afternoon, or is it morning? I got to get my glasses on here. Well, whatever it is, it's close to afternoon. It's about 11, actually. And I just had a wonderful and interesting closing. I was fortunate enough to meet a client who found me, I believe, on YouTube or somewhere. And this client is just a doll. Like, it was just like, okay, you're going to be my family member and I'm going to adopt you. And I'm not going to let you go. So she came from out of state and she's new here. And, it's a big decision to come from a whole nother state to Texas or anywhere. Even buying a property near or in a place that you're familiar with, it's just kind of a big deal. But in this case, my client came from out of state and wasn't familiar with all the locations and was trying to figure out where they wanted to be and all. And I did a video earlier, I think last week, where I said, all because you can doesn't mean you should. Because it's like, what do you really need? Sure, we all want a lot of things, but when we really think about it, do we want to pay for those things? Do we want to take care of those things? Do we want to manage those things? Having a good real estate agent not pressuring you into buying is very important. This topic was inspired because my client had asked me about a for sale by owner down the street, and I kind of glanced at the sign and saw it, but didn't really think about it. And the client asked me about it, and so turns out the seller was just delightful, which is rare, period. But especially in a hot market, sellers get kind of rigid and uncooperative because they're like, well, it's a hot market and I'm not going to work with you. I'm not going to give you credits. I'm not going to, I don't care if my roof's falling apart. Everybody else, I've got 5 offers and you can take it or leave it. Like they don't really have much ethics or conscience or concern for the other party because they're like, they just want the money. But in this case, my dog wants to get on my lap, say hi. He's a stinky butt. But in this case, the seller was just very accommodating. There had been several offers and we offered the first round and I'm like trying to get comfortable. The first round, and our offer didn't get accepted. And the seller told us later that they weren't comfortable because my client hadn't been to see the property in person, which is a very common issue right now. I've never seen more houses come back on market. Okay. And that's a lot to do with people coming from out of town, or they have the inspections and, some people are like, oh, well, it's old. I'm like, well, no kidding. You knew it was 1958 when you bought it, when you put the offer in. Why is it a surprise that it's old now? One of the things I do with my clients locally and out of town is that I let them know, depending on what neighborhood you're in, fortunately, I know my area as well. There are certain things to expect on the inspection reports. Okay. And things that you expect to find, both positive and negative. The older homes in some of our neighborhoods are built really well. They might be old, but they're solid, so they're going to be just as expensive as the new ones in a different location, but it's just a different feel. It's, some people say, a different vibe. So in this case, we ended up coming back and putting an offer in again on this for sale by owner. And throughout the process, there was a lot of questions, a lot of things we were discussing about, in this case, the air conditioning system, the water heater was old, just some odds and ends, that we were trying to figure out because, one of the perspectives I explained to sellers and even buyers is, look, at this price, we would expect there to be a newer air conditioner, maybe not brand new, but maybe 3 to 5 years old versus 10 to 16 years old, right? So we're paying top dollar. You didn't tell us your air conditioner was on the old Freon and was sucking like me when I run. I mean, so it's not a bait and switch when we come and get our report and go, wait a minute, like, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be bait and switch on you, Mr. Seller, but I'm paying you top dollar and this thing's about to die. And so all that to be said, we had a lot of moving parts. We had some non-realty items we were discussing. My buyer, I had to spend a lot of time with the buyer to just kind of reevaluate, make sure they really felt comfortable with that location. So we spent hours, probably 7, 8 hours, just driving around, revisiting locations, revisiting things, and driving by the house that they contracted on. And just, you know, it's a very emotionally stressful thing. And I'm going to make that the point, is that real estate to some is just sales, right? And it's sales, and it's just like, here's the information, here's a house, market's hot, you better buy it or not. And the seller of this house was very leery of working with real estate agents because they had a very negative experience when they bought their home. And apparently they bought with a relo, and the relo, what happens with relo is they refer you to an agent who's with a specific brokerage, and they take 40% off for the relocation fee. And then the broker takes off another X amount, like 20, 30%. And so real estate agents, and it's not right, but I can understand it, is it's too hard to run around that hard to sell a house for 1/3 of what you normally make. So they tend to be a little less motivated to protect you, or really, protect you and inform you of different locations and negotiate strong for you, because they really just kind of want to close the deal and get to the next one, right? Because they don't want to spend too much time on this one that they're getting 1/3 of their normal income. So what was neat is, the seller was like, I'm not going to pay you. And the buyer's like, well, okay. And, it's kind of like in your head, it's like, okay, if I'm paying top dollar and they're not even paying the real estate agent, you kind of cringe at the thought of paying your real estate agent, right? But in reality, it just depends on how much that real estate agent is worth to you. Okay, so in this case, there's really no real way but that my client would have been protected to the level that I protected her. And I can say that with confidence, like that's pretty much a true statement. And she even said so, because she had another agent before me, and who wasn't a full-time agent, who wasn't as experienced, who wasn't as thorough, who wasn't as careful, who was, with my background in psychology and my faith, I'm always thinking about what's best for this person. Do they really want this? And taking the time to ask questions, and taking time to stand back and evaluate pros and cons, with them, and and carefully break down scenarios and perspectives, to help them go, oh, okay, this is okay, but because I'm a mind person, what's going on in their mind? Well, and when things get heated, does your real estate agent tend to escalate things, or do they tend to bring everybody together as a peacemaker? That's what I do. So what was neat in the end, that my client was blessed and happy, and finally was like, yes, this is good. I have peace, and move forward. And they were willing to pay me. I didn't give them a number to pay me. Most people would think that's crazy, but my point to my clients was, well, what do you think I'm worth? What did you think? Do you think you could have done this without me? Right. And even the seller was like, wow, this has been really wonderful. You've been so helpful. And, it's just really been great to meet you. And you've been so honest and helpful and thorough. And you have the ability to help me with the things that I didn't know who to contact with, So not only was I able to represent my buyer well, but I was able to make this a smoother, more pleasant transaction, and show the seller, the for sale by owner, that there are some good real estate agents out there. And she did say that I was valuable and that I was a blessing. So, maybe you don't need a real estate agent. Maybe you know everything. Maybe you know the comps. Maybe but most people don't really know. It gets a little nitty gritty sometimes, and it's good to have someone there knowing how to manage all those moving parts. I say it's like a bunch of gears in the clock. One's going this way, one's going that way, one's going this way, and you're like trying to get them all to be syncing together, right? And so someone who knows what they're doing will do that for you. But in this case, I was fortunate. I was just glad to get paid. Because they could have tried to do it themselves, but I don't think it would have gone very well. It probably would have imploded. But anyway, hopefully, if you need to buy or sell, you know that I'm here for you, and I will do the same. I will ask you questions. I will evaluate things with you, and we'll look at the pros and the cons and see what's best for you. Okay. And hopefully you'll go, you know what? She's worth it. And I know that I don't mind paying, money for good contractors, for good hairdressers, right? Because I'm like, if you do what I want you to do and you can handle it for me, then I'm happy to pay you. But if you don't really do anything, I'll pay you. Okay, fine, whatever. I'll pay you the standard fee. But I'm agitated because I'm like, I'd rather pay you more and have you take over more so I'd have less stress and less to handle. So I can do that for you. I take things off your hands to minimize your stress and help you manage things and get things done. I have connections with good air conditioning guys. I have painters. I have handymen. They might be a little delayed sometimes, but I'll protect you and I'll help you get things done. Okay. So have a great day.